We are a couple of weeks into the new year. What do you hope will happen, not only in 1984, but for the rest of your professional life? What are your dreams? What's left?
To rule the world.
There have been millions of words written about teen idols by critics, professorial types, psychologists. But the only people who can really tell you what it's like are the teen idols themselves. Now, we contacted some of the most popular of all time to tell us about the experience in their own words. And it seems that no matter what the generation they represent, history just keeps repeating itself. Now, we asked those teen idols, what's it like on the road?
We were going into the airport to get on a plane, and just a mob of girls started running after us. We got to the ticket counter, we looked behind us, they were like coming full speed, right? So we had to jump over the counter, you know, where you put your bags and stuff. They kept coming, so we had to go in to where they put the baggage, like down inside.
On the belt thing?
On the belt. We were all on the belt, and we ended up like down on the runway. Us, me, John, and a couple security guards. It was wild.
Probably the wildest thing that ever happened to us was going to Brazil. We did shows in stadiums, the biggest being 200,000 people. The smallest, which was the intimate show, we did 65,000 people. So it was pretty humbling to have military in front of you with guard dogs and be led in a military procession. It was pretty much the wildest thing that's happened to us.
I remember one time flying into an airport in Brazil, and I was supposed to have been met by thousands and thousands of fans. I mean, that's what my agent told me. He said, you're a big hit there. Well, I got off the plane, and no one was there. And as I walked off the plane, all I saw waiting for me was one car, which was a convertible, old convertible, and one truck with a loudspeaker. And on the truck, they were playing out of the loudspeaker. It was embarrassing.
I remember one on this recent tour where we were in an airport in Manila, and I was led out the wrong door by their head of security, who looked like, some general. 3,000 kids broke through a barricade, and I had to dive over the car rental counter and hide in the closet for an hour while the Army and the police got it together to get me out of there.
So I said to the guy, would you tell him to turn it off? There's nobody here. As I was getting into the car.
One time we had a concert in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and told the security at the venue that a lot of times the crowd would rush up, but the people from the Kuala Lumpur, they said that it wouldn't be a problem because the kids there don't ever stand up. But during the show, everybody got up and started crushing each other at the front of the stage, and we had to stop in the middle of the show because it got out of hand.
As we're going through the streets of Brazil, there was nobody there to greet, to say hello, and I was going down the street.
We just happened to be in an airport waiting for a connection, and all of a sudden, this teen tour came through, and I don't know, 100 kids, and it was just a madhouse. It was just, I was there, and they literally had to get, the airport security to pull me out and drive me away in like that little airport cart. And it was crazy, so we can't do that anymore.
Nobody was there.
Thanks, guys. One path to becoming a teen idol has been the launching of a successful music career through a successful television series. And it all probably started in the old days of Ozzie and Harriet, when Ricky Nelson would end each episode by crooning his latest hit song at the school dance. You remember that? And even though Joey Lawrence of Blossom is a little too young to remember all of that these days, he, too, is carrying on the teen idol tradition.
let her in. Gonna let her in my life. Let her in my life.
Cookie, cookie, lend me your coat. Cookie, cookie.
What's with this comb caper, baby? Why do you want to latch onto my comb?
I just want you to stop combing your hair and kiss me. You're the maximum utmost.
Well, I'm beaming on Dreamville and I'm moving right now. Because that's the kind of scene that I dig. Baby, with a ginchy. I feel a big beat. Rock of life. Big beat, talk to me. Hey! Whoa! I feel a big beat. Rock of life. Waking up bright with the house on fire. Hey, hello, Mary Lou. Goodbye, heart, sweet Mary Lou. I'm so in love with you. Brand new Mary Lou. We never part, so hello, Mary Lou. Goodbye, heart.
Now, one of the all-time popular groups totally created for television was the Monkees. Now, all of the Monkees were very popular. Mickey Dolenz, Michael Nesmith, Peter Tork. But the monkey who became the bona fide teen idol was the young man from Manchester, England.
But I love her just the same. I can't forget the girl from Chelsea. Oh yes, the girl from Chelsea. Oh yes, the girl from Chelsea.
One of the characteristics of a teen idol seems to be that they very often burst on the scene and suddenly, quickly vanish from sight. Now, take a look at a young man who shot to stardom in the late 60s named Bobby Sherman. Had a hit television show called Here Come the Brides. A lot of hit songs in a row. He seemed to be every teenage girl's dream.
Hey, little woman, please make up your mind. You've got to come into my world and leave your world behind. All right now. Na 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 na. You've got to come down from that cloud, girl, and leave your world behind.
Ah, right. Now, if you're wondering what Bobby Sherman is up to these days, you're about to find out from the man himself. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Bobby Sherman. Hey. Nice to see you, sir. Please sit down.
Thank you.
You look very good then and now, I might add.
Well, thank you very much. Got a painting in the attic that's getting old, just like you.
Sure. No, I got you beat by a lot of years. You are doing a lot of things that have nothing to do with show business these days. What's up?
Well, I'm still in show business, Dick, but I volunteer my time basically as an emergency medical technician and a specialist officer with the Los Angeles Police Department, where I teach police officers first aid and CPR at the Los Angeles Police Academy.
Where would an actor and a singer get involved in this sort of thing?
Well, when my two sons, Christopher and Tyler, were growing up, I had visions of them kind of falling out of trees and off the bikes and all that, so I wanted to be prepared for any emergency. So I took first aid, and I just fell in love with it. The more I learned, the more I wanted to know more, and next thing I know, I'm an instructor.
Let me take you back to the teen idol days. I mean, with the ripping and the clawing and the tearing of the hair and screaming and yelling and chasing the automobiles. Did that ever bug you?
Never did, Dick. I was blessed with some really nice fans, and they're still with me. So, God bless them. And anytime I go out, I don't try to hide from them. I don't wear disguises. I'm just as anxious to see them as they are to see me.
What word would you leave your friends of yesteryear and of today?
Well, if I had a wish, I would wish that every man, woman, and child would learn first aid and CPR. It works, and you never know when you're going to be called upon to take care of somebody.
Good advice, Bobby. Nice to see you again. Bobby Sherman, ladies and gentlemen. This thing. This is another really prized possession of mine. If you don't recognize it, I'll give you a little clue. It belonged to a left-handed bass player, probably the most famous left-handed bass player of all time. This is Paul McCartney's bass. As a matter of fact, he signed it right here. This is the one that he used when he, along with John, George, Ringo, and Paul, of course, started a thing called the Beatles. Now, Beatlemania eventually swept across the pond in the United States. Not only did we have several Beatles days on American Bandstand, but the doors were open to a whole brand new kind of teen idol.
What do I say when it's all over? And sorrow seems to be the hardest word. Found me, love you now. Would be the sweetest thing. Would make me sing. After I'm there, well, trying to catch the wind.
We dragged all of his equipment up on top of a roof over in the valley somewhere. There were real, honest-to-goodness palm trees in the background. We put 2 fakes in there just to fatten it up and roll the tape, and this is the result. It's called Young Turks. Look over here.
Now, here's a familiar scene of the Beatles arriving at the airport, and we've all seen this footage countless numbers of times, or have we? Let's take a look here. Take a close look. Here's Paul, and there's John, and George, and Ringo. Ringo, or is it Ringo? I tell you what, let's solve the mystery. It seems that Ringo was having his tonsils taken out back in London at the time, and he was replaced by a studio musician named Jimmy Nicol. And this sign here coming up tells it all. So for one brief shining moment, Jimmy Nicol knew what it was like to be a Beatle. It takes 2 major ingredients to make a teen idol. First, of course, is the young man or woman who has the unique charisma. But just as importantly, you need the young fans who lose control every time their idol comes into view. Now, to show you how things have pretty much remained the same over the years, here's another scene of the Beatles arriving at the airport, this time in New York. And this is just the beginning of this whole thing. Keep your eye on the airplane door because your favorite might just be arriving at any moment.
737 coming out of the sky. Oh, won't you take me down to Memphis on a midnight ride? I wanna move. Hey, you need a traveling train. Yeah. Well, I'm talking land, trying to get a hand. Hey, you need a traveling man. Take me to the hotel, back and down on west. Come on, won't you get me to my room? I wanna move. Hey, you need a traveling man. Yeah. Well, I'm talking land, trying to get a hand. Hey, you need a traveling man. Listen to the radio, talking about the last show. Someone got excited, had to call us, they were listening. Wanna move. Hey, you need a traveling man. Yeah. Well, I'm talking land, trying to get a hand. Hey, you need a traveling man.
Despite all the pandemonium being caused by the Beatles, being a teen idol isn't easy because teenagers are a very fickle group.
What do you think about the Beatles? How long will they be around?
Oh, a long time. I love them.
What is a long time?
A couple of years.
A couple of years. Long time.
Now, before we leave the Beatles, let's take one last look at a very famous picture of them coming off an airplane. Now, look at those cartoons of the Beatles right there. They were drawn by Paul while they were flying on the plane. Now, look at this. Ta-da! That's right. I mean, these are the actual cartoons drawn by Paul McCartney, all autographed. I have one little problem. Somebody swiped Ringo. However, that, I guess, is what makes collecting challenging.
Here's another question for our teen idols. Have you ever had your clothes stolen?
We ran out on stage, and this girl, she snuck into our dressing room. I don't know how, but she did. She took off with some of our clothes, but luckily my little brother, he was out on tour with us at the time, and he ran after her, chased her down. He got our clothes back.
Yeah, I'll never forget, I was in Hawaii. I just finished a concert, and I was in my room. It was on the ground floor. It was like a little condo. And I was sleeping, and I heard the door open, and as I looked up, I saw someone come in, take something, and run. And I, of course, ran out in my undies to see who it was or what they had gotten. Finally, I didn't get him. I came back into my room again, and I turned on the light and saw that they stole a pair of pants. I went back to bed. As I was going to my bed, I looked on my bed, and I saw a tarantula. So to this day, I say, thank you very much for stealing my pair of pants.
I gave my clothes willingly. They didn't have to be stolen.
Yeah, I'm sure that's true.
I guess the odds of anybody becoming a teen idol are probably around several million to one, but maybe the odds get better.
When you have several members of the same family with talent, now here's one of the most talented families of them all. And I think you'll recognize the lead singer.
Coming up, Donny Osmond, New Edition, David Cassidy, and more.
There have been a lot of groups in the history of popular music where every member becomes an individual star. Certainly all the four Beatles names were known around the world. And there are people who can name all the Rolling Stones. Some people know all of the Beach Boys. But no group has ever launched more individual teen idols than the young men from Boston who call themselves New Edition. Each one of these young men has gone on to become a superstar attraction, selling millions and millions of records on their own. And this is how they started.
Now let's take a closer look at these successful young men. That's Bobby Brown. Bobby, of course, is married to Whitney Houston, and his album Don't Be Cruel sold 6 million copies and produced 5 top 10 hits. That's Ralph Tresvant. Ralph, the group's original lead singer, has been compared to Marvin Gaye and is consistently found at the top of the R&B chart. Now here's a threesome that includes Ricky Bell, Michael Bivins, and Ronnie DeVoe. You know them as Bell Biv DeVoe. Their first album as a trio, Poison, sold over 2 million copies. Here's a later edition of the New Edition with the newest member, Johnny Gill. Johnny replaced Bobby Brown in the group, and when Johnny went out on his own, he immediately had 2 top 10 hits, both #1 songs on the R&B charts. Here's New Edition with a song made famous by Little Anthony in the 50s.
You don't remember me, but I remember you. Was not so long ago, you broke my heart in two. Tears on my pillow, pain in my heart, caused by you.
And now a special surprise guest joins the group. Watch. It's Little Anthony himself.
But I know a few snobs who just refuse to appreciate the popular music of the day. Whatever day. For years, they've been putting down the talents of singing idols, reserving their praise for performers of the legitimate and musical comedy stage, and, you know, to each his own. But it's finally time for those snobs to get their comeuppance. Take a look at Broadway this year. It reads like a talent booking sheet for American Bandstand.
This is the heart of the New York Theater District, and starring in the play Blood Brothers is 70s teen idol David Cassidy.
I'm here, of course, on Broadway, and it's an astounding thing. I started, my first professional job was here. In fact, before I was on television, before all of that madness in the 70s happened for me.
Here's David during those wild 70s days as a member of the Partridge Family.
It's taken me an awful lot of years, and a lot of them have been tough years for me, but it smells real sweet. And the success that I've been having and enjoying the last few years has been well worth waiting for.
Now, right down the street from David is a hit musical starring 80s teen idol Michael Damian.
Well, for the last few years, I've been doing Young and the Restless, actually quite a few years, and also writing and producing records in between that. And about a year and a half ago, I was approached by Andrew Lloyd Webber about doing Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, which is what I've been doing for the past year.
Now here's a pre-Broadway performance by Michael on one of our more recent Bandstand shows.
The challenge of doing a live play every night would be to be consistent with your quality of work and to do your best. And if that's the case, you just got to do your best and have a good time and give the audience what they deserve, a great show. And that's your job.
Meanwhile, former teen idol Donny Osmond is starring in the Chicago company of the very same musical.
I got this gig as Joseph in 92. I got a call. This is while I was taking acting lessons and vocal lessons, preparing myself for something. I don't know what it was. I knew something was out there because I was going to go after it. My agent got the call from our producer, Garth Babinski, called me up, said, would you be interested in auditioning for Joseph? So I flew to New York, and it was just like in the movies. You know, they're out there, like, sing, kid, you know? And I walk out on stage, and I tell myself, I'm going to let him have it. So I take my leather jacket off, and I look at him, and I do my thing. And I guess I blew him away, because they committed to me right there and then. You're our man. There were no callbacks, no nothing. They said, you're the guy.
Now here's a flashback to teen idol Donny Osmond performing with his brothers.
Stay in show business, despite the fact people kept saying, you're a has-been, you're a former teeny bopper idol, that was your career, give it up. I'm quoting friends without mentioning names, give it up. But anything worthwhile is worth working very, very hard for. So when you say, is it very difficult to come in here day in and day out? Yeah, you bet it's difficult. But after doing it for 31 years, it's all I know how to do.
Back in 1957, a Bandstand regular, Barbara Levick, brought me a very interesting article from her school newspaper. Now, it showed the influence of the teen idol at that time.
Is this a high school newspaper or magazine?
It's a junior high school magazine.
Junior high school magazine. Are you a writer or just a subscriber?
Subscriber.
I wanted you to read this article to the folks who are watching at home. I thought they would be interested in what is labeled a dream faculty. It says, wouldn't school be wonderful if we had a faculty like this? You read it, all right?
Principal Sal Mineo, Vice Principal Tony Perkins, Girls
There's an interesting stuff. The Gould's gym teacher, the girl gym teacher.
Tony Curtis. English, Ricky Nelson. Algebra, Johnny Saxton. Language, Tab Hunter. Music, Elvis Presley. Junior business training, Bob Cummings. History, Hugh O'Brien. General math, Frankie Avalon. Study hall, Johnny Mathis. Art, James Darren. Advisor, Dick Clark.
Bless you.
Oh, so now about 35 years later, we sent our cameras out to ask a new generation of students the very same question. And these are the results we received.
I think I'd choose Mariah Carey for Music Teacher.
I would like my history teacher to be Jerry Garcia of the Grateful Dead.
Snoop Doggy Dogg for study harmonics.
For my computer lab teacher, I would like Johnny Gill.
For algebra, I want Winnie Houston.
I would like to have Axl Rose as my PE teacher.
For art teacher, I would like to have Bobby Brown.
For a language teacher, I think would be Luke Perry.
I would like Janet Jackson to be my English teacher.
Here's some butthead for principal.
Coming up, Jay Leno as Elvis.
It's all grown up now, as you'll see in just a few moments.
It's a lovely and a lovely, it's good vibration, oh, a heartbeat. It's a lovely, and when we meet, it's a good sensation, a heartbeat.
Now, one of the young men in that last piece was Tony DeFranco, the young heartthrob of the DeFranco family. They had a whole string of monster hits around 1974. Among them, they had Heartbeat, It's a Love Beat, Abracadabra, Save the Last Dance for Me. Now, at the height of his fame, Tony DeFranco had fan clubs, tons of them, all around the world. And if you were a Tony DeFranco fan, here's a follow-up on your idol.
I've always loved music. I've been on stage since I was 5 years old, and I think it's just in my blood. It's not something when you're successful in the business at 13, 14 years old, you find easy to walk away from. So as I got older, I formed a production company, and I've been working with a lot of international artists and American acts. Last summer I worked with Tina Turner for the movie What's Love Got to Do with It, and I'm currently working with a Japanese artist named Seiko.
Thank you, Tony.
One of the questions I'm asked most about the Bandstand years is, did you ever have Elvis on the show? Well, the answer is yes and no. Actually, Elvis never appeared on the set, but we did get an exclusive phone interview with him once. It happened when he was in Germany. He was serving in the Army, and he took time out to connect with American Bandstand via transatlantic phone.
Hello, Elvis.
Hello, Dick. How are you?
Elvis, do you have any idea of how many gold records you have now in your collection?
This one will make 31, I think.
Oh, that is a fantastic record. There's no getting away from it. Elvis, I did want to thank you very much for calling on this day. As you probably know, this is our special anniversary day.
Oh, well, congratulations.
Now, despite all of the outrageous Elvis sightings that have sprung up in recent years, Elvis Presley has truly remained a vital force in popular music. You could argue that he was the all-time great teen idol. And I think you can measure his power by the number of successful entertainers who've been influenced by him throughout the years. It's quite an impressive list, and there's no end in sight.
Now, in this performance of Don't Be Cruel, the Judds are joined by the Jordanaires, who sang on the original recording with Elvis.
Baby, it's just you I'm thinking of.
Don't be cruel to a heart that's true. Don't be cruel to a heart that's true. I don't want no other love. Baby, it's just you I'm thinking of.
Won't you wear my ring around your neck to tell the world I'm yours by head? Let them see your love for me, and let them see by the ring around your neck.
Now here's a song that Elvis recorded over 30 years ago. UB40 does it in their own unique reggae style and makes it all their own.
Who would like to be the first one to talk to Elvis? Come on over here and meet Elvi. Come on over here, young ladies. What's your name?
My name's Calibri.
Calibri?
Yes.
And what's your name?
Donna.
Donna.
I want to ask you, Elvis, how do you get them sideburns to grow?
How do you get the sideburns to grow?
Yeah.
You ever hear of Miracle Grow?
No.
Actually, these are chia sideburns. You put the sideburns down, you put them on your face, and they sprinkle a little water on them. And then they grow.
Well, we asked our teen idols, what's the strangest request you ever received?
Recently, I've been traveling around the country, and I would say that the strangest request from a fan would probably be, I was at an autograph signing in Paramus, New Jersey, and there was about, 10,000 people there, and you know, they ask you to sign different parts of their body, and this one part I really couldn't sign, because it would have gotten out of hand, but it was pretty racy. So that was probably the most outrageous thing.
The strangest request was having to do with a baby, and a lady who didn't mind if I gave her one. That was pretty strange.
Oh, boy.
I declined.
I've also been proposed to, and though I was already married, the girl didn't seem to mind.
The craziest request I had from a fan was an autograph, believe it or not. And this gal had stopped me, and she was really excited, jumping up and down. Can I have your autograph? And I said, sure. And I said, what should I sign? She says, well, I don't have anything. I said, I don't either. She said, well, sign my bra. And with that, she pulled up her sweater, and she wasn't wearing one.
Next, an all-star birthday celebration for Dick Clark.
This way. I remember once in Europe on this tour, as we pulled away from a hotel, we heard a little giggling in the back of the van we were in, and there were two girls positioned in the back seat of the van, hidden underneath the back seat.
I was on my 12th floor of a hotel, and I was in two rooms. I had two rooms, and I was in one room, and I heard some tapping on the window. I immediately rushed over into the other room, and I saw through the window, out on a fire escape, two gals with autographs, pencils, photographs, crying. I immediately opened the window. Out.
You will meet members of your family that you never knew existed. In fact, one show I actually had a security guy standing in front of me with a guy, a teenage guy, who was saying, "It's Bob. It's your brother, Bob." I don't have any brother, Bob.
Well, I was like near a stairwell. Anyways, I left my door open. But I walked in my room, and I was gonna take a shower. So, you know, I did what you do when you take a shower, and I took off all my clothes, and I walked into the bathroom, and I went to close the door, and there were two girls behind the door. I was stark naked, and I was so scared. It was the it was the scariest thing I've ever felt in my life. I was like, whoa! I grabbed something. I don't know what I did. I ran out in the hall. I was like, that's so good. It was nuts. It was so scary.
You know, I don't live in the past, but I sure miss some of the closeness of the good old days. Today, everybody's schedules are so tight. It's almost impossible to get your friends together on one stage. I mean, we can still pull it off every now and again, you know, something special like an award show or a once-in-a-lifetime event like We Are the World. That was very special. But on a particular day, way back in 1959, practically every teen idol in the business turned up for a very simple television show. It came out of friendship. The occasion wasn't all that important. It wasn't certainly earth-shaking. It was my 30th birthday.
Our thanks to Sal Mineo and Pat Boone and Bobby Darin. What are you... Wait a minute. This is where we're supposed to close the thing here.
Now, as I walked over to the group, I realized what a unique collection of talent there was there. I can't ever remember seeing them together again in one place. And there was Bobby Darin, a very close friend and one of the most talented performers I've ever known. Frankie Avalon, he's been a part of my life since the early days in Philadelphia. And Sal Mineo, very gifted actor who teenagers all over the world related to. And then Pat Boone, the clean-cut teen idol who rivaled Elvis in popularity. And then we had Danny and the Juniors, the rock pioneers who recorded At the Hop and Rock and Roll is Here to Stay. And little Anthony and the Imperials, they would soon become legends in the pop and R&B world. And Connie Francis, another longtime friend and the first real female idol. Now, you can't bring back the good old days, but once in a while you can recapture the feeling. These were very special people in a very special time. I'm lucky to have known them and to have called them my good friends.
Thank you very, very much. Hun, thanks for playing the piano. To all of you crazy people, bless you. Let's go sign some autographs, all right? We'll see you for tonight, Dick Clark. Good night.
Well, thank you very, very much. Thanks so much for joining us tonight for our look back at the great teen idols. I hope the show's brought you a few treasured memories along the way. I know it has for me. American Bandstand really has been the most important part of my professional life, and whenever I'm able to share some of those moments with you, it's a very special occasion for me. Let's do it again real soon. For now, Dick Clark. So long.
Coming up next, best-selling author Danielle Steele brings her #1 blockbuster to NBC in a world premiere movie. Lindsay Wagner stars as a woman torn between two passionate men in Danielle Steele's Once in a Lifetime, next on NBC.